Welcome back to the channel, guys. This is VIN 2146 and it just popped up on Auto Trader very recently. It is a 2017 Smoky Granite Mica, which is paint code 1GO with a LA20 interior, which is the black interior. The seller's asking $66,000 and it has 31,000 miles on it. Overall, first impression, looks extremely clean. I don't see any issues with the carbon fiber. I don't see any potential, like the front of it looks really clean, maybe just a couple paint chips or, you know, it's hard to tell, but it looks extremely well kept. It looks extremely clean. The seller is asking pretty much top dollar for this car. So let's dive into it and see what we can find. So first and foremost, production statistics. So Smoky Granite Mica, paint code 1GO, it was only produced from 2017 to 2020, so you couldn't get it on the 2016 because that color was Nebula Gray Pearl. So Smoky Granite Mica, it has like a silver metallic in it, and it really pops in the sun. You can see kind of in the picture a little bit on the corner, but it's a really neat color to see in person if you've never seen this color. There's only 86 cars that were made for the US 49 in Smoky Granite Mica. That's it. 86 out of the 2,348 cars that I've identified. Smoky Granite Mica is the third rarest color, third only to Flare Yellow, of which there's 11, and Molten Pearl, of which there are 43 cars. Pretty rare to see Smoky Granite Mica in person, because normally if you see a GSF, it's gonna be black or white. You heard me talk about 54% of them were black or white. So this is in the 3%. Out of those 86 cars, only 32 had black interior. For 2017 specifically, there were 39 cars with Smoky Granite Mica, and only 18 had the LA20 black interior. So this car is one of 18. That's definitely on the rarer side. There's several that are one of 8, whatever, but the more common ones are like one of 60, one of 100 and something. So this is definitely on the rarer side of combinations. You're not gonna see very many of these come up for sale, if at all. Carfax, Epic VIN, and AutoCheck. So Carfax shows this as a one owner, one accident or damage reported, and it shows it in September 21st of 2018 as minor damage. Now it doesn't actually show where it was, what it was. Sometimes that could be a windshield replacement. Sometimes that could be a wheel replacement that was turned in under insurance. So this being a one owner, you could definitely inquire with the owner to find out what that damage was. Epic VIN shows this as a two owner, no accident. Sometimes Epic VIN over-reports the owners, but I think it's pretty safe to say this is a one owner car. AutoCheck also shows it as a one owner, no accident car. So I think one owner with one damage, it doesn't say accident, it says damage reported. So one owner, one something reported on Carfax. The other two don't show that. Previous sales, it first went on sale in April of 2017 for $88,000 in Texas. June of 17, it's still for sale, and it looks like it finally sold at the end of August. So you're talking about 4 or 5 months that it sat for sale. Pretty common on these cars to see them sit for a while. You've heard me talk about, they did not sell well at this price point. If they were priced $65,000 to $70,000, they would have sold tremendously better, but dealers wouldn't discount them until they sat around for a long time, discounting them sometimes $15,000, $20,000, even $25,000 off the MSRP to get them sold to the first owner. So now looking at the pictures, I don't see any carbon fiber delamination. I don't see any heavy wear on the driver's seat, and I don't see a lot of rock chips or anything on the front. Like it looks very, very clean, very well presented, high quality photographs. So, you know, kudos to the seller for actually providing high resolution photos that you can zoom in and look at and things like that. But I do not see any issues with this car. You find out what the damage was from the owner, and make sure if it was some paint work or something, just make sure it was properly repaired. That would be my only concern that I see so far. Service history, April of 2019, the JLB recall was done. That's the high pressure fuel pumps. Good to see that's done. September of 19, the high pressure fuel pump O-rings were leaking and replaced, probably related to that first recall. June of 2020, the KLG campaign was done. That is the GPS getting updated, where if you're on the highway, it may show you off to the side. So that's been updated. And the last service was September of 2020. So this car has been almost 5 years without seeing the inside of a Lexus dealer. In September of 2020, it was just an oil change. They noted that the front brakes needed to be replaced soon. Other than that, I don't see any other services on the Carfax or on the AutoCheck or Epic VIN, so that would tell me that either the owner did a DIY or he went someplace that didn't report it to Carfax or anywhere else. So of note, it looks like, if you look at the photo there are OEM rotors, brand new, sitting in the trunk. That's probably because the service said it needed it. 5 years later, it still hasn't been done. So the concern I would have, what is done in the last 15,000 miles in 5 years as far as service, should just be oil changes, but obviously it hasn't been to the Lexus dealer for any other issues. The carbon fiber in that case is probably original to this car. I don't see anywhere on the service where that has been replaced. So if you're gonna take this car to a cold climate somewhere up north, then I would pretty much expect that you're going to have the carbon fiber delamination issues as time goes on. Now, if you're gonna keep it down in the south, maybe not as bad, but it's just something to keep in mind. Another thing is the valley plate. The coolant valley plate, I beat this to death when I talk about this in the other videos. It's heat cycles and time. It's not necessarily mileage that causes it. So if you're gonna buy this car, I would definitely do a pre-purchase inspection, have the valley plate inspected. Maybe the previous owner, the guy that's selling it, maybe he's already had that done and it's not leaking. It'd be another thing for peace of mind buying this car. Being that this car is lower miles and it's around 8-9 years old, I would look at the tire dates, make sure these are not old tires. If you're gonna start driving it regularly, make sure you don't have, I think Tire Rack and some of the other places, they say 7 years is kind of the magic number before you want to replace tires, especially they start to dry out, dry rot, things like that. So that would be something I would look at. Lower control arm bushings, as always. Make sure that the front tires don't have tire wear on the inside. If they're very recently replaced and only the fronts, that would be, kind of cause for concern. I would look at that and just inspect it closely. So valley plate, carbon fiber in the future, most likely. Lower control arms, just kind of the usual things that you see on this. Don't see anything about the HVAC servos or the ZLZ, the ZLZ, which is the dash being cracked or deforming, sticky, anything like that. Lexus covers that for 10 years from the in-service date of the car. So that is important. If you go take this to the Lexus dealer for a pre-purchase inspection, they can tell you the in-service date. You have 10 years from that date to get the dash replaced if it starts delaminating, cracking, anything like that. So there are a few things that you want to keep in mind when buying this car. That's kind of the downside to a low mile car, is not a lot of the normal issues that these cars run into have been addressed, but that's okay because it's exceptionally clean. But again, they're asking top dollars. Let's talk about the price. $66,000. I think it's slightly high. If you look at, yes, for low mile for 17, if this car had 80,000 miles on it, it would probably be low 50s. And so you're talking about $15,000+ more than that for 30,000 miles. Here are where some of the other cars in this mileage and age are. I think for that, it should probably be upper 50s, lower 60s. That's just my opinion, but that's also market data right here. So I think it is exceptionally clean. It's still, the thing that may hurt the value a little bit is that it has some damage reported on it, depending on what that is. It doesn't say it's in an accident, but you kind of have to take Carfax with a grain of salt, because sometimes minor things can be major, sometimes major things are not so major. And you kind of have to go into it being extra cautious and then put your mind at ease as you find out more information. And so that's why I've done the digging on my end. You'll have to dig a little bit further if you're going to pursue this car, but I think it's definitely one of the good ones. Low miles, exceptionally clean, one owner, well serviced, no, but the owner can put your mind at ease if he can provide proof of what's been done. If it's mostly oil changes, that's to be expected. Looks like front brakes are gonna be needed soon. And that's about all I have, but it does look like a good one. I think the price is just slightly high, not too terribly high, but I think you can get it for less and it's still gonna be a good deal. But yeah, I think overall it's definitely gonna be a great one. Just as I said, get it a little cheaper than what he's asking and you'll have yourself a great car. Do a thorough inspection, mechanical inspection, pre-purchase inspection. As always with these cars, very important, but I think it's a good one, guys. So VIN 2146, go check it out. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you soon.